Hey guys, I'm HP, this is Dr. Pink, and today's topic is jazz guitar secondary dominance. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to my channel, hit the notification button, and also join the HPCrazy Guitar Academy. Secondary dominance. It's probably not a really popular theme, but it's a must-have for every guitar player who's interested in jazz. And because it's everywhere in jazz, you know, if you have a tune like what I'm playing here are secondary dominants. So I'm going to explain you the theory of dominance, because if you don't understand what a dominant is, you don't know what a secondary dominant is, and where they come from, which mode are played in a specific situation, and. So let's get started. All right, when you want to start working with secondary dominants, you really need to know the diatonic chord progressions and what a dominant in general is first, because otherwise you don't understand. If you don't know what a dominant is, you of course don't know what a secondary dominant is. What is a dominant? We are doing this in the key of C. So I'm taking here C chord, okay, and every progression has like a little story. And the most easy progression is the classical cadence is 1, 4, 5, and the 5, the G, is the dominant. Why? Because that leads back to 1. So if any kind of a progression in C, now you hear the dominant leads back to the C, and that's basically what the dominant is there for. And the dominant is the 5. How you find out that the levels, I call them levels, when you take the scale, you know, C major, you have the diatonic chord progressions. What is that? That means that on each of the notes of the C major scale, you have chords, and they're always the same in major. If you don't know, have no idea of this, then you probably first need to really learn diatonic chord progression. I'm just going to make a quick sum up that you understand what I'm talking about. So we have on the level 1, we have C major 7 on level 2, D minor 7 on level 3. Level is on the notes of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the level. So C major 7, D minor 7 level 2 on level 3, E minor 7 on 4, F major 7 on 5, that's the dominant. G7 on 6 is the A minor 7, and on 7 with the B minor 7 flat 5. And then we're back on 1. So this is the diatonic chord progression in C, okay? You can also play it in other ways if you want. If you want, you know, that's up to you. From the theory, it's all the same, okay? Now, the dominant, coming back to dominant G7, what is the dominant doing? It resolves back to 1, it resolves from 5 back to 1. And where is the 1? Either the interval of a fourth above. So here's the G, here's the C, so it resolves to C. Or, if you take the G here, a fifth below. So that's the nature of a dominant. It resolves a fourth above or a fifth below. Okay? Now, if you have a dominant on other spot in the diatonic chord progression. Now here comes a trick. Let's say if you have D minor on level 2, if you have a D7 here, that could be a secondary dominant, but we're not quite sure. Now comes the second rule. It has to resolve on another chord inside the diatonic chord progression, okay? Otherwise it's not a secondary dominant. Now let's see. Where does D resolve? What did we say? Fifth below. That will be the G, or a fourth above. Here's the G as well. So in fact, in this case, this is happening. So if those two rules are fulfilled, then this is called a secondary dominant. It has to be a chord inside the diatonic chord progression, but not the dominant, because the dominant is the dominant. So it's not on the G, that is gone. And it has to resolve on another chord inside the diatonic chord progression. That's called a secondary dominant. And how do we name it? We name it, as an example with the D minor, 5-7, because 5-7 is another expression for a dominant chord, but secondary dominant 5-7 of, and that's now comes the resolution point, 5-7 of 5, in this case G. And that's what a secondary dominant is. Let's do a secondary dominant on the first level. So we have C major, then C7. Now the resolution point is a fifth below or a fourth above. This is the F, which is a chord inside the diatonic chord progression. So this is a 5-7 of 4. So and that's what a secondary dominant is. Yeah, and now which types are available? Let's go through the 7 chords in the diatonic chord progression. Okay, C major 7, I already said, resolves to F. That's a secondary dominance of 5-7 of 4, because F major is the 4th level. D minor to D7, I already said before, 5-7 of 5. E minor 7 on the 3rd level, we make a E7, resolves to A, which is also a chord in the diatonic chord progression, so it's 5-7 of 6. F major 7, so resolves a quarter above B flat or a fifth below B flat. B flat is not a chord in the diatonic chord progression, so F7, even it's played sometimes, is not a secondary dominant. Here, because you need to have both rules which fulfill itself, and F7 is not a secondary dominant. Okay? Now let's go to the next one. G7, of course, that's a dominant, cannot be a secondary dominant. A minor 7. So A7 resolves to D, which is a chord in the diatonic chord progression, so it's a secondary dominant 5-7 of 2. That's a classic turnaround thingy. And last but not least, the 7th step, B minor 7 flat 5. There we make a B7, resolves to E, which is a chord of the diatonic chord progression, so it's also secondary dominant, so 5-7 of 3. So that is what secondary dominants are, therefore, to create a more leading progression through the diatonic chord progressions. Okay, and I mean, it's not really so hard. You just check the resolution, and they're always the same. There's only 5 available: 5, 7 of 4, 5, 7 of 5, 5, 7 of 6, 5, 7 of 2, 5, 7 of 3. So these 5 are available. Now comes the question, which modes are played? So 5, 7 of 4, that will be the C7. Which mode do we play? We check which is the original mode from the diatonic chord progression. This will be Ionian because it's level number 1. Now we adapt the mode as near as possible to the original mode of the level which we are on. So in this case, this leads to Mixolydian. So 5, 7 of 4 is Mixolydian. 5, 7 of 5, so D7. The original mode on the second level is Dorian. So the most near mode would be again Mixolydian. So yo. Now let's take 5, 7 of 6. Now it gets harder. What do we have here? 5, 7 of 6 will be E7. The original mode here is Phrygian. And now the most near mode here is Phrygian natural 3. How do we play that one? Basically, you play Phrygian 1, 2, 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. And then you replace the flat 3 with a 3. That's Phrygian natural 3. So 5, 7 of 6 is Phrygian natural 3. Okay? Good. Now let's do 5, 7 of 2, which would be a A7. The original mode is Aeolian here on the 6th level. Now we just replace the flat 3 with the 3. This leads us to a mode called Mixolydian flat 13. Really nice mode. And last but not least, we have 5, 7 of 3. Original mode is Locrian. Well, we could discuss which one is the most nearest mode because it's not really a near mode, but I suggest taking here Phrygian natural 3 again. So but of course altered would also work because altered is also called Superlocrian. But I would suggest Phrygian natural 3. You already heard it on this example. It doesn't mean that you always have to play the mode which is called by the rule, because this is just a rule to give somehow the guiding lines what to do, but there's also other stuff available, but I won't talk about this today because that's too much. We just need to understand what secondary dominants are. That was the whole thing in major. The same thing is in minor, of course. Minor is basically the same as major, just with one exception. Let's stay let's go to A minor. A minor is the parallel key of C major, so it is basically the same chords. The only difference is when you go to A minor, which has before has been the 6 in the diatonic chord progression in C major, becomes the 1 in the diatonic chord progression in A minor. So we have 1, B minor 7 flat 5 is now the 2, C major 7 is now the 3, D minor 7 is now the 4 instead of 2, E minor 7 becomes an E7 because we need the dominant on the 5th level. F major 7 becomes the 6, and G7 becomes the 7. Yeah. Here's exactly the same rule with the secondary dominants. You check again, what do we have? On A minor we can do an A7, that will be 5, 7 or 4, and in this case, because now we have A minor, the original mode is Aeolian, so here 5, 7 or 4 in minor is not Lydian, Mixolydian flat 13. Okay. B minor 7 flat 5 is now 5, 7 or 5 and requires the same mode as before, Phrygian natural 3, but just has another resolution, 5, 7 or 5 and not as before, 2 or 3. C major 7 or C7 is 5, 7 of 6 here, and has the same mode again as before, so we have Mixolydian. D minor 7 is now 5, 7 of 7, so D7 has Mixolydian. And D7 is the dominant. Here we play Phrygian natural 3, even it's the dominant, but it's not a secondary dominant, now it's the dominant. F major 7, as before, the resolution point is a B flat, so it will not be a secondary dominant if you would play F7 here. And G7 is already a dominant 7 chord, which resolves if you want to see, but this is not a secondary dominant in this case because it's already dominant. Yo guys, that was a theory of secondary dominants. It's really a must-have for every jazz guitar player or every jazz musician because it's a central thing in this genre. Basically, the jazz works a lot with this, with the resolutions of, or not resolutions of, any kind of dominance or secondary dominance. There are also available extended dominants, but I won't talk about this today. And I do understand that it's hard to get into this topic. In fact, I do understand that it's even hard to explain because, once you know how the whole thing works, it's like riding a bike. It's really simple. It's always the same thing. And you always shuffle around with these tools. And they're always the same tools and the rules are all the same. But it's really hard to get into this and even harder to start to play intuitively on stuff like that. I completely understand, but there's no way of doing a first step, and this will be the first step to understand secondary dominance. I made a working sheet about what I just explained, which might help you to understand better what I was talking about. It's available in the HPCrazy Guitar Academy, and if you have any serious questions about this stuff, there's the place to ask your questions. Probably there are questions, but as I said, once you understand how the system works, it's like riding a bike. You just get on the bike, start going, and then it works, you know. But I do understand it's really hard. No, there's not much more to say about this topic. I hope you still enjoyed what I was talking about here. And as I said, if you have any questions, you're really free to go to the HPCrazy Guitar Academy, ask us serious questions, and to solve the problems which you have. See you guys.